The summit is looking, and it's on September 4th to the 6th, and it also partners with the Africa Climate Week, also happening during the same week into the 9th of September. And the mission of this summit is really to address climate finance in the context of a green growth approach for Africa. So it's a climate positive narrative on how Africa will develop while addressing the challenges and the opportunities of climate change. And the emphasis is on a new global financial architecture that really emphasizes capital that unlocks the potential on the continent, from renewable energy to green minerals and manufacturing to nature and to agriculture, in a way that drives development on the continent while also providing solutions to the world from a climate perspective. When you talk about the outcomes of COP27, yes, the discussions on loss and damage need to go further, the amounts of money required. And even before that, the 100 billion committed, while important, is hardly sufficient for the quantum of money required to address the climate crisis. And so what we're hoping to address in the Nairobi summit is a clear voice from the continent, offering solutions from what the continent has to offer, but requiring that the world engages in a fair agreement, sharing of technology to unlock these resources on the continent.
The continent needs billions to be able to respond adequately to the effect that climate change has had on it. Where do you think that money should be coming from in order to finance Africa's energy transition?
That's precisely correct. Already there's a lot of climate impacts that we're seeing on the continent, including cyclones, droughts, and so on. And an example is Malawi has had over $1 billion worth of infrastructure damage in the last 2 years because of a series of cyclones. And so the loss and damage amounts needs to be provided so countries like Malawi can address the challenges they're facing. But that will not be sufficient. It's crucial that the world comes together and develops the right financial infrastructure that is fit for purpose, that is at scale, and has the level of urgency required to address the energy transition and climate adaptation needs on the continent. And our president, His Excellency President Ruto, proposes that we look at the climate finance perspective as additional to the development finance. And what that means is we need a quantum of money beyond what is already being proposed through the MDB reforms and so on. That quantum of money needs a different governance that prioritizes investment on climate and not on shareholding from the MDBs and TFIs. And the investments must be driven by climate first. But we do realize that the largest amount of capital sits with private sector. And so by using this quantum of money from either global taxation or from taxation on fossil fuels at source, that capital should pay for the public good component of investment so that then you're able to deploy the billions of dollars from private sector as the opportunities would have been de-risked by the public good financing.
And when it comes to actual political leadership on the continent, do you feel that African leaders are pulling their weight and doing what they can in order to get the job done?
I think if the attendance to the Nairobi summit is anything to go by, African leaders understand and are committed to driving this. We're already at over 25 African presidents committing to attend the summit to discuss this very issue. If you listen to the speeches they provide and even the policies that countries are adopting, if we take Kenya as an example with its green growth strategy, Nigeria with its energy transition plan, South Africa with its JET-B plan, Senegal with its JET-B plan, you see very clearly that African governments and African leaders realize, acknowledge, and are committed towards working on the climate agenda. But in exchange, there is need for a fair engagement from the global community. As our president says, we're in this together, and we must, each of us, bring our strengths, our resources to the table to collectively unlock what will be a global problem, what is indeed a global problem already.
CEO of the Africa Climate Summit, due to kick off this next Monday, speaking to me a little earlier on.